I was listening to the radio not long ago, and a song came up that I hadn't heard in years and years and years and years by the Byrds back in the 60s. And the song is called Turn, Turn, Turn. How many of you know it? And here's what's interesting about it is it's basically the song, pretty well the whole song, are the first 8 verses of the Bible book of Ecclesiastes chapter 3. But it's talking about a time. There's a time for everything. The most important thing it says is something we know already. And that is our time is limited. Everybody in here knows that. Our time is limited. A time can be used or it can be wasted. But either way, once it's used, can never be regained. And that's why it is so valuable. The most famous passage in the Bible about time reminds us there is a time for everything in life. That's what the song is about. Ecclesiastes 3, the first 4 verses read, "For everything there is a season, a time for every activity under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to harvest, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build up. A time to cry and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance." And it goes on that way for another 4 verses. Time matters because it is the stuff of life. And when time is gone, so is life. So what I do with the moments of my life, what I do with the opportunities I take, the people I talk to, the path I follow, all of it matters. Because sooner or later, for me and for you, time is up. Time is no more. And all of us are slaves to time much more than we would like to admit. These days, we all think we are saving time because of our cell phones. And we don't talk to people and spend as much time talking as we quickly text people. And we spend more time texting than we do talking to people in person. Time will tell whether that's a good thing or not, but the truth of the matter is, we have changed the way we communicate. If you're over the age of 65, you actually remember these 2 images on the screen. You actually remember writing handwritten letters. And you remember wall phones with cords, right? Get this, kids. I'm not kidding you. I'm not making this up. I used to have to sit and talk to my girlfriend on a phone just like that, with a cord just that length, as I'm lying in the floor trying to be quiet so my parents couldn't hear me. That actually happened in my lifetime. If you're between the ages of 45 and 60, you learn to communicate more now with email. Or if you're between 25 and 45, more with texting. And then if you're under the age of 25 or 30, you're probably more in line with Instagram or TikTok or a million other apps like them. Time has become the new currency of life. For many people, time matters more than money. We will spend money to save time. My parents would have never thought of that. My parents were very frugal. They didn't have much money. And they would spend time to save money. But we will spend money to save time. It's a world where most of us feel stressed out. We value our free time more than we value a few extra dollars in our pocket. But here's what's fascinating about that. I don't care how much we value it, we still don't have much of it. We still don't have much of it. Moses, did you know Moses wrote a couple of the Psalms? Moses wrote in Psalm 90, teach us to realize the brevity of life. Teach us to number our days, it says in the King James. Teach us to realize the brevity of life so that we may grow in wisdom. In the New Testament, in Ephesians chapter 5, Paul wrote, redeem the time because the days are evil. You know what I've found? When a man knows he is going to die soon, it has a wonderful way of concentrating his mind. I'm dead serious about this. It's one of the reasons why Hope Hospice is such a wonderful organization, but also it's a win-win situation because it helps the people who work there or who minister there too. Because listen, I'm serious about this. People, when they know they're dying, will talk to you about things they never would have talked about before. Never would have before. I've had that experience many times. It has a wonderful way of focusing your mind. Now, in the text that we're going to read today in 2 Timothy chapter 4, Paul knows beyond a shadow of a doubt he's about to die. And so his mind is concentrated on what's upcoming and what needs to be done before he dies. And as he's writing his final letter, and these are the final recorded words he ever wrote, to his young protege Timothy, he says some very touching things. Just a short time after he writes this letter, it seems very likely he was beheaded in Rome on the order of the horrible Emperor Nero. So what was on his mind? His last recorded words. They're mostly about people. He thought of Demas, who had left him in his time of need. Demas has deserted me because he loves the things of this life and has gone to Thessalonica. He mentions two other friends who had helped him in mission work and in the ministry. Crescens is to Galatia, and Titus has gone to Dalmatia. He then mentions Luke. He says, only Luke is here with me, near me in this cell to visit me on a regular basis. Bring Mark with you when you come, for he will be helpful to me in my ministry. He then goes out of his way to mention a guy who's been very ugly to him and to the church. Alexander, a coppersmith, did him much harm, but the Lord will judge him for what he has done. He then thanks God for the strength and power God has given him to make it this far, knowing he's not going to make it much further in this life. The Lord stood with me and gave me strength so that I might preach the good news in its entirety for all the Gentiles to hear, and he rescued me from certain death. But above everything else, here's what he wanted. You say, how do you know he wanted this more than anything else? Because three times in this short chapter of this letter, he's going to say it. He's going to mention it. In verse 9, Timothy, please come as soon as you can. He wanted to see his young mentee, Timothy, before he died. Remember, Timothy is in Ephesus, hundreds of miles away. It would take several months for him to get there in Rome to see Paul in prison. But the aged apostle, facing death, wanted to see his young friend one final time before he died. Later in verse 11 he says, or verse 21 I should say, he says, do your best to get here before winter. The New King James says, do your utmost to come before winter. The King James Version that I grew up on, and many of you did, says three words only. Come before winter. Timothy, do your best to come as soon as possible. He said in verse 9, come before winter. Come before winter. Timothy, if you're going to come at all, come now. Don't wait. Don't delay. I won't be alive much longer. Come quickly, my friend. Come before winter. Some things simply cannot be put off forever. You have to do them while you can. This was one of them. And so it leads me to three questions that I want to ask this morning, and then we'll finish out. The first question is this: why did Paul want Timothy to come before winter? Well, there are a couple of reasons. The first is a practical, the other is a physical. Let's talk about the physical reason first. During the winter weather made travel much more difficult and sometimes impossible in the first century. And if Timothy, who was in Ephesus, delayed at all, he wouldn't be able to come to Rome until the spring. And if he waited that long, Paul would likely already be dead. Some things must be done before winter, or they will not be done at all. There are doors of opportunity that open up before us today that if we do not take the time right now to take advantage of them, by springtime they'll be gone forever. You can't wait forever to respond to things that are really important. Things that seem small today, they become very, very large tomorrow. Sometimes we just have to respond now. We must answer now. We must act now. We can't wait or delay or put things off. We must not say, well, I'll do that tomorrow. Tomorrow is another day. James addressed that in James chapter 4. He said, look, here you who say, today or tomorrow, we're going to a certain town and we'll stay there a year. We'll do business there and make profit. Well, how do you know what your life will be like tomorrow? Your life is like the morning fog. It's here for a little while, and then it's gone. Life changes on a dime. Life changes so quickly. 3 weeks ago, Thursday night, hundreds of people went to bed like any normal Thursday night in a high-rise condo in Miami's Surfside. I owned a condo very similar to that for 12 years. I owned a condo very similar to that about 5 miles away from that site. Dozens and dozens of times, Diane and I have gone to sleep in that condo on the 15th floor. These people went to bed, everything seemed fine. Boom, just like that. They never knew what hit them. And they were gone. Life changes on a dime. This man and his daughter boarded a helicopter like they had done hundreds and hundreds of times. It was his own private helicopter. He went to a Sunday morning church service with his daughter. They were playing, his daughter's girls' basketball team was playing a game in the middle of the day. So they went early to church. They went to the airport, boarded a helicopter with 7 other people, got on it like he'd done hundreds and hundreds of times. Something, we don't know what, still went wrong, and just like that. Time was over. This man's been a lifelong friend of mine. He's a basketball coach in Middle Tennessee. He's also been a preacher for years, been preaching for 20 plus years out at the Burnett Chapel Church of Christ. 3 years ago, he's up preaching one Sunday morning. The service ends. They hear gunfire in the parking lot. A woman is down. A gunman comes in, randomly shooting all around the building, shoots Joey Spann 4 times. One of the bullets is still in him to this day. Shoots his wife twice, shoots several other people. The woman in the parking lot is dead. Just a normal church service on Sunday. Aren't you looking forward to the dismissal today? know as well as I do, I could have gone through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of examples of what the Scripture says there. Redeem the time. Watch out your days. Your life is but a mist. You're here for a little while and then you're gone. That's why you have to come before winter, Timothy. You got to come now. I'm not going to be here much longer. That means you hug your kids every chance you get. That means you do not hold on to grudges. It's a horrible thing to hold on to grudges. That means you hug your kids every chance you get. You love your brothers and sisters every chance you get. You tell your people around you love them every chance you get because you don't know when it's going to be the last time. Come before winter. There are some things you must do now while you can. Which leads to the second question that I ask about this text. Did Timothy go? Well, guess what? We don't know. We do not know. I wish we knew the answer to the question. It's obviously burning in my mind, but we really don't know. Or is it possible Timothy said to himself what many times we say to ourselves? Yes, I must go to Rome, but first I got to attend to some more matters here in Ephesus. And because he delays, winter comes. And he can't get a ship until spring. And so all through the winter and the first part of the spring, he worries about his dear friend in prison hundreds of miles away. And at last, better weather comes, and he finally is able to get a ship and make his way to Rome. And when he arrives, he can't find Paul, and nobody seems to know where he is. Finally, he realizes, I can go to the house of Claudia or Linus, two of the people that are mentioned in this passage, and ask them about Paul. And so he goes to their houses, and they say, oh, Timothy, we're sorry you didn't know. Paul wanted so badly to see you. He prayed that you'd be able to come. He never gave up hope of seeing you again. In fact, some of the last words he spoke was, tell Timothy I love him. I don't know whether that happened or not. The Bible does not tell us whether he ever got there to see him or not. But I know the circumstance I just described happens every day on a regular basis. And I know this much is certain. Procrastination destroys many good intentions. And intentions just, they're not very helpful. They may make you feel better, but that's the only person they make feel better. How many marriages die because of slow neglect rather than from deliberate desertion? Well, I can answer that for you real easily. Almost all of them die from slow neglect rather than deliberate desertion. Things that are essential and basic get neglected or pushed back every day. We mean to say a word of encouragement, but we never get around to it. We mean to write a letter, but we never do it. We mean to make a call, we never pick up the phone. We mean to share Christ with a neighbor. We intend to be serious about the Christian faith, and we don't. We hope to pray for. We say we're going to pray more. We say we're going to read the Bible more. We know we need to finish out our obedience to Christ. We come to church and we hear and we believe, and to some degree we have changed our lifestyle as we are coming to church, but we've never completed our obedience to Christ by being baptized into Christ for the forgiveness of sins, as the Bible teaches over and over again. And we just keep putting it off. We keep saying tomorrow. Come before winter. Come now. Do it now. It's an old story, but I like it. About 3 of Satan's apprentice devils who were coming to earth for their first assignment, and they met with Satan and asked him what the strategy was that they were to follow. And the first one said, I'll tell you, I'm going to tell people there is no God. And Satan said, that won't work. They know in their heart of hearts there is a God. They know from the natural world, which Romans 2 teaches, that there is a God. They know you can't have a creation without a creator. That'll never work. The second one said, I'm going to tell them there's no hell. The devil said, that'll never work. I mean, they know all the evil, and they know evil people and evil things that have been done. You mean there's no accountability ever for that? That'll never work. The third one said, I will tell them there's no hurry. And Satan said, that's it. That's it. Go right now and tell the world and you will ruin millions. There's no hurry. Come before winter. So, why did Paul say come before winter? That's question number 1. Question number 2 is, did Timothy go? We just don't know. Here's question number 3, and this is the most important question of all. It really is. Would you have gone? This is down where the rubber meets the road. Would you have gone? See, this is where application is so important, because unless we apply what we've learned and heard, it doesn't matter. And I know most of us want to think or say, I would. At least that's what we tell ourselves. So, I'll ask you this question. Where do you go now? When come before winter situations present themselves for you in life, do you go now? You see, many of us live with that reality, too little, too late. We have good intentions that somehow we never get around to doing it. We really meant well. We meant for things to be different. But we all too often end up with the ifs and buts of life. Some things need to be said now. Some things need to be done now. The opportunity is before us now, today, not tomorrow. What is it that you need to do today? I mentioned one a moment ago. There are people in this room today who've never been baptized into Christ for the forgiveness of their sins. And so I'm just going to throw this out there. Some people don't want to respond to the invitation to the service because they don't want to be baptized in front of everybody, or they're shy, or they're... Listen, call me anytime today. I'll hang around a while after church. Tell me then. Call me anytime today. Let's just lay aside that little obstacle for anybody. If you need to come before winter and complete your obedience to God by baptizing into Christ, do it today. Amen. What good deed do you need to do today? What act of forgiveness do you need to make today? What prayer should you be praying today? What sin should you be confessing today? What bad habit needs to be broken in your life today? Some things need to be done before winter, or they'll not be done at all. There are doors of opportunity that open before us today, but if we don't take advantage of them, by springtime, they'll be forever gone. You can't wait forever to respond to things that are immediately important. You just can't. And so what do you need to do today? You've probably seen This quotation, it's credited to the Quakers a little over 200 years ago. I shall pass this way but once. Any good that I can do or any kindness I can show to any human being, let me do it now. Let me not defer it nor neglect it, for I shall not pass this way again. May I ask you a question? If you knew that today was the last day of your life, who would you call? If you knew that today was the last day of your life, what would you say? What kind of kindness would you make sure you rendered today? What broken relationship would you try to heal? You see, whenever we ask a question like that, it always tends to be theoretical because deep down inside, most of us don't expect to be our last day on earth. Neither did Kobe Bryant. Neither did those people who went to bed in Surfside. And that's a reasonable thought. That's a reasonable expectation. And I hope it's true. I hope it's true for every one of us here. I hope everybody in here lives another 100 years. Some of you better be careful about that. But anyway, things can change so quickly. Life can change on one phone call. So some of us need to reach out to the people around us now. Some of us need to come before winter and say to the right person, I love you. And maybe say to somebody else, I am sorry. And maybe say to a third person, please forgive me. And maybe say to somebody, I forgive you. Maybe you're holding a grudge and the other person doesn't even know it and it's poisoning your life. And maybe say to somebody, thank you, or I miss you, or I just wanted to give you a hug, or I just wanted to see your beautiful face. Some of us need to do some of these things today and come before winter. Others of us need to get serious about our relationship with Jesus Christ. I'm going to serve the Lord someday. What day? What day? Give me the date. How about July 25th, 2021? No? All right. How about July 26th, 2021? Why not today? What do you gain by putting him off? How can you be certain that when tomorrow comes, you'll still want to serve the Lord? The Bible says, this is the day of salvation. The right time is now. Come before winter, Paul wrote to Timothy, his young mentee. I could just feel the anguish in his words as he writes them. I want to see my buddy so bad. I've invested so much of my life in him. And before I die, a martyr's death, I want to see him, encourage him, pray with him. Did Timothy go? I don't know. I hope above hopes that he did. But I'm much more concerned with this because that was 2,000 years ago. Will you go? Do you go? Do you come before winter and take care of any spiritual need that you have in your life, or take care of any personal relationship or need that you have in your life? That's the rub. That's the question. Did you go?